an international civil society organization based in New York, associated with the United Nations Department of Global Communications. And I'm so happy and so proud to be a part of this panel discussion and also a partner with ANAIS-ADVU. Before we go into to the discussion with our speakers, I would like to give just a brief background and also introduce our partner organization, ADVU, which stands for Association for Dialogue and Universal Values, which is a non-profit organization committed to fostering dialogue among people of diverse backgrounds. Considering education as a universal value, ADVU offers various educational programs, events, debates and lectures, and promotes dialogue, cultural diversity, and shared values to create a more inclusive society. And since we are here at the Commission on the Status of Women, ADVU is a part of its women's empowerment, raises awareness on gender equality, women's rights, domestic violence, and the empowerment of refugees and girls. So thank you for ADVU for supporting this event as well. My introductory remarks, dear guests, as we convene in New York for the 69th session of the UN Commission on the Status of Women, it's my honor and privilege to be the moderator for this wonderful panel discussion. And we have so many wonderful, amazing, strong women leaders, human rights experts, and civil society members through critical dialogue as we focus on gender-based violence against women, refugees, and migrants through transformative approaches and best practices which affect millions of women worldwide. Another note, as you know, 2025 also marks the 30th anniversary of the Beijing Declaration and the Platform for Action. The main focus of the UN Commission on the Status of Women is to review the implementation of the Beijing Declaration and the Platform for Action, which can be explained in threefold. The first one, it could be an assessment of current challenges faced by women worldwide and women, refugees, and migrants, the achievement of gender equality, and then the third one is the empowerment of women and girls towards full realization of the global agenda 2030 for sustainable development. So now, where do we stand in terms of achieving the SDGs gender equality? So that's the question. And the answer to that is, in terms of the current status of gender equality, SDG number 5, achieving gender equality and empowerment of all girls and women, unfortunately, we are not on track to achieve the SDG goals 2030. According to the report by the UN Department of Economic and Social Affairs and UN Women, Progress on the Sustainable Development Goals, the Gender Snapshot 2024, these are some of the findings I would like to share with you. Unfortunately, violence against women persists worldwide. Urgent action is needed to challenge biased social norms, eliminate harmful practices, and change discriminatory laws. Increasing women's leadership roles and investments in gender equality are crucial at the national, regional, and global levels. And I would like to share two statistics with you that will really make sense on where we stand in terms of gender equality. 1 in every 8 women and girls ages between 15 and 49 was subject to sexual and or physical violence by an intimate partner in 2024. And another statistics, 1 in 4 girls continue to be married as children. And when we consider refugees and migrants, I believe the numbers will increase because refugees and migrants are more vulnerable, right, to these perpetrators. Now, as we can see from the report by the UN DESA and UN Women, gender-based violence remains a persistent issue faced by women and girls, including refugees and migrant women. Today, we will be examining the gender-based violence from both European and American perspectives, highlighting how systemic vulnerabilities are increased by the challenges of displacement and migration. These women often navigate life in the countries while contending with the shadows of trauma, discrimination, and violence. Our host, main partner, ANAIS Association, has spearheaded efforts over the past decade to support vulnerable women and girls, delivering critical services such as psychological support, legal aid, emergency shelter, social integration. Their commitment to empowering these communities has already reached over 7,000 beneficiaries. The work done by ANAIS exemplifies the transformative potential of holistic, survivor-centered intervention that we will examine today. So this session will contain a wealth of knowledge, but at the same time, a wealth of field experience as we explore innovative strategies that not only address gender-based violence, but also foster resilience and empowerment among refugee and migrant women. We will hear from representatives from the NGOs, policymakers, and community leaders on how they develop effective partnerships, share some of their successful practices, and how they ensure access to these services for refugee and migrant women, which are crucial for building a pathway to preventing gender-based violence. So, final remarks. So the key topics will include identifying the unique needs and vulnerabilities that refugee and migrant women face, the role of NGOs in providing multidisciplinary services, and advocacy efforts aimed at strengthening protection against gender-based violence. So in a world where refugee and migrant women's experiences are often overlooked, today's discussion will serve as a reminder of the resilience and the importance of empowering them through comprehensive support systems. Together, let us examine how we can actively contribute to fostering a safer and more equitable environment for all women. I would like to give just a background information about Carmen. She's a lawyer, a feminist, and an activist with over 26 years of experience in civil law, family law, human rights, and administrative law. For more than 15 years, she has been actively advocating for women's and children's rights, playing a significant role in combating domestic violence and promoting gender equality and equal opportunities. As a founding member and president of ANAIS Association, Carmen has contributed to public policy reform and initiated projects that have brought lasting changes to communities, and we heard about it. She has led numerous initiatives supporting victims of violence and advocating for women's rights, solidifying the association's position as a leader in the field. Her leadership has strengthened ANAIS Association's role as a key player in preventing and combating domestic violence, as well as in providing support for refugee, migrant, and minority women in Romania. And thank you so much for all these remarks.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everybody. My name is Carmen Nemes. I'm a lawyer in Romania and also founder of feminist NGO. We are fighting for domestic violence. But today I want to speak about research that we made last year about refugees, about Ukrainian women and children. So I will start with this. So for over a decade we have worked to protect and empower women and girls, offering them legal aid, psychological support and social services, because we believe that no woman should face violence alone, and every survivor deserves justice and dignity. But today I'm here not only to speak about our work in Romania, but also highlight the crisis that affects women and girls across the world, the vulnerability of refugees and migrant women to gender-based violence. As we gather here, we must acknowledge a very big truth. Forced displacement is increasing over the world. There are currently more than 110 million forcibly displaced people across the globe. Wars, conflict, climate changes, and economic instability are pushing millions of people to seek safety behind their borders. Yet, for many refugees and migrant women, escaping violence in their home country does not mean escaping violence entirely. Instead, they continue to face exploitation, harassment, and abuse in transit, in refugee camps, in host community, and in workplaces. In Romania, where ANAIS operates, we have seen this in first hand. When the war in Ukraine began, our country was unprepared for such a massive wave of refugees. Historically, Romania was not the primary destination for migrants and asylum seekers, receiving only about 6,000 asylum seekers per year before 2022. But in the past 3 years, we received over 10 million Ukrainian refugees, but just 169,000 still under temporary protection today in Romania. Most of them are Romanian children facing not war, but also hidden dangers of exploitation, discrimination and violence, the same danger faced by refugees and migrants, women everywhere. Despite having no prior experience in managing crises of this scale, Romanian NGOs, including ANAIS, had to adapt quickly, applying the same multidisciplinary approach we have used for years to support survivors of domestic violence. Since the war started, ANAIS has helped more than 50,420 displaced women and girls, providing them with legal support, psychological counseling, and emergency humanitarian assistance. And our message was always been clear. Every woman deserves safety, every woman deserves dignity, every woman deserves justice. But while we celebrate the resilience of refugees and migrant women, we must also confront the challenges they continue to face. Challenges that are not unique to Ukraine or Romania, but global in scale. Over the past year, ANAIS, in collaboration with UNICEF Romania, has conducted 2 major research. You can find it on our website. The GBV Safety Audit, a comprehensive assessment of gender-based violence risks for refugees women with lesson applicable worldwide. And the second one is about a teenager named Born in Ukraine, Refugees in Romania, a study that explored the challenges, perception and expectation of teenage refugees girls, mirroring in experience the young displaced girls everywhere. These reports are not just statistic or academic analysis. They reflect real expertise, real voices, real struggles, real experience. And most importantly, they offer clear solutions that must be adapted and implemented at a global level. Many refugees and migrant women face harassment, sexual violence and exploitation, especially in private housing in Romania and informal employment. When crises strike, gender-based violence is often ignored in emergency response efforts, leaving women without access to safe reporting system and protective services. Many survivors do not report violence due to the fear of stigma, discrimination, and even deportation. A 12-year-old girl refugee shared her experience, and she said, "We don't just want help. We want to be part of the conversation. We want to help design the programs that affect us. If we want to create lasting change, we must include refugees women in policy decision, conduct regular safety audits, and find refugees-led initiatives that empower women as leaders, not just as victims. If we want to create lasting change, we must include refugees women in policy decision, conduct regular safety audits, and found refugees-led initiatives that empower women as leaders, not just as victims." Now, in the critical moment in history, the political climate is shifting. Hostility towards migrants and refugees is growing. Fear is being weaponized. Social tensions are rising, inequality and injustice breed resentment, often directly at refugees, migrants, and most vulnerable. We just reject the narrative that refugees are a threat. We must reaffirm that human rights are universal, not conditional. We must ensure that displaced women and girls are not just protected, but empowered to build their own future. Let us act with wisdom, justice, and compassion, because history will judge us not by how we treat the powerful, but how we protect the most vulnerable. NGO stands in the line of defense for those whom society too often ignores. This is not just about policy, this is about our moral compass. The refugees crisis is not over, neither our responsibility. So, before I conclude, I keep time from my speech to invite you to listen a powerful voice with us today is a strong woman from Romania, from Ukraine, whom had the privilege to meet at the very beginning of the war. I saved her in my phone, Slava Ukraini, because she was so powerful and so strong. Since then, we have worked together, as she had played a vital role in both research projects that I mentioned, as a mediator between us and the refugees women community. She has not only contributed with the data and insights, she has given a voice to hosts who might otherwise remain unheard.
My name is Elena Lazareva. I am 35 years old, and I, like millions of Ukrainians, became refugees 3 years ago. Like all my compatriots, I experienced the moment when life was divided into before and after. In just one day, everything changed. I found myself alone with my child in a foreign country, while my husband joined the army and my parents and sister remained under occupation in Chernihiv. Romania welcomed us with warmth and support, offering humanitarian aid and housing, for which I am very deeply grateful. At first, I believed that the war would end in a few weeks and we would soon return home, but reality turned out differently. I had a huge psychological burden for separation from my husband, anxiety for my relatives in Ukraine, uncertainty about the future. All this lay like a heavy burden on me. I was forced to be both mother and a father for my son, hiding my own pain in fear. A month after the war began, I found the first job in Bucharest because I understood one thing. In any situation, you must rely on yourself. I had to become a pillar of strength not for only my son, but also for family who remained in Ukraine and faced even greater hardships than I did. Driven by a desire to help my fellow Ukrainians, I crossed paths with organizations such as ANAIS, Olympic Snagov, and World Vision Romania. I began working on projects aimed in integrating Ukrainians into Romanian society, a mission I continue to do nowadays also. A fateful meeting with Carmen, Nemes, director of ANAIS, changed everything. From the very first conversation, we knew we were both strong women capable of helping others like us. For nearly 3 years, ANAIS has been more than just an organization. It has been a source of unwavering support and friendship for Ukrainian women who have endured immense hardship during the war. Together with the ANAIS team, through meaningful workshops, we have helped many Ukrainian women and children regain their confidence, learn about their rights in a new country, build their lives from scratch, and believe in brighter future. There were many challenges along the way, but we overcame them together because we shared a common goal: to do good and achieve real change. Beyond integration projects, ANAIS has also provided us with a wonderful space where my colleague and me organized Joy Day Family Festival for both Ukrainian and Romanian communities. These events give people a chance to showcase their talents, embrace creativity, and connect with each other, building bridges between nations. A year ago, I founded the Hope for Ukraine Foundation and developed a project aimed at helping Ukrainian children navigate wartime and post-war relativities through sport and psychological support. My goal is to grow this initiative as a crucial way to raise resilient and strong spiritual youth, strong belief in future. I know that it's possible. I am deeply grateful to ANAIS for their trust, support, and the opportunity to be part of this important mission. Thank them for helping people to improve their life. Thank you for everything we have achieved together and for believing in me, in my ability to help others. Together, we are strong.
Aliona should be at your panel online in the
yes, also.
Yes, also because she became a leader in her community in this period. She is like a study case for me, and we become very good friends in this period. That's why she's very, very okay with me. But I want a little bit to finish. I understand that you don't know what it's about language difficulties in between Romanian and Ukrainian. Romanian language and Ukrainian language is like Chinese and French, so different. We have so many, even we are on the border, even we are a neighbor, the most challenging issue was the language. Because we are neighbors, but we are not so like family neighbors. So we are neighbors, and Romanian is, yes, it's an island in Slavic, you talk about it. But I want to say that because in our research, this was one point that they remark, but it's not, it's applied in Romania because of the situation, the language are so different. So this problem was even with accessing legal aid, healthcare and mental health services. Many struggle with trauma, depression, anxiety, and with reproductive health care, including contraception and maternity services. With the bureaucracy, with the legal form, they confront this problem because of this language barrier.
Now, I would like to continue with our second speaker, and I would like to just introduce her briefly. Our second speaker is Ms. Fatma Yilmaz. She is a feminist, human rights activist, and a mother of 2 children. She holds a degree in history and political science, a master's degree in public policy, gender and minorities, and a PhD in political science with a research focus on Muslim women in Europe between political morality and Islamic norms. For over 20 years, she has been advocating against religious fundamentalism and is well known for her efforts promoting multiculturalism and intercultural dialogue. So, Ms. Fatma, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kilic, for your generous introduction. Thank you for your presence here and also for your hospitality. I'm very grateful to the efforts of the Journalists and Writers Foundation for the opportunity to make our voices heard here. As a feminist, I strongly believe that women's voices should not only be raised, but also heard and understood, along with the diversity of challenges they face. But from the beginning of my presentation, it's necessary and it is my duty to make some clarifications. When the war between Russia and Ukraine starts, my professional activity was in the city hall of Bucharest, the capital of Romania. And after a few weeks after the war began, I started working in the Ministry of Interior Affairs as a responsible for all persons who were acquiring Romanian citizenship. My point of view expressed here does not represent the point of view of the Romanian government. It's only my point of view following my collaboration with ANAIS Association and the research in which I am involved. In the next few minutes, I will try to outline a big picture to understand the situation, was talking Carmen before, of the response that Romanian institutions have had to the wave of refugees that began to arrive when the war was starting. So, in my presentation, I will focus on the state intervention in response to the new wave of Ukrainian refugee women, challenges and solutions. First of all, I must tell you that Romanians' displays of solidarity should be celebrated. The way a country chooses to treat the vulnerable is always an indicator of its humanity. I remind the words of a very famous Palestinian poet, which I adore him, Mahmoud Darwish, who said, if you want to see the level of humanity in a society, look at how it treats its women, children, and also elderly. Romania was among the first countries to offer its support when others delayed doing so. This should be a source of great pride for Romanians, both for the country's official response and for its continued support for Ukrainians living in Romania. But, we have a but. For Romania, the implications of the crisis in Ukraine have a special character derived from the common border with Ukraine, as well as from the status of a country which is situated on the eastern border of NATO. Increased pressures are placed on the Romanian state both in terms of defense and in terms of border management, the provision of humanitarian assistance, but also the possibilities of medium or long-term integration of Ukrainians who wish to make Romania at least temporarily their home. I would like to dwell on some specifics related to the broader historical and political context between Romania, Ukraine, and Russia. The war, the drama, and the tragedy of the Ukrainian refugee women do not happen in a vacuum. It is necessary to see the nuances, the sensitivities, the not so easy history of Eastern Europe, the historical and political sensitivities that these three countries share. First of all, Romania encountered for the first time after the Second World War the situation of having a war on the border, so very close. There was also the war in Bosnia and Herzegovina, if I remember 1992 and 1995. But in that time the borders were not threatened, and it was not about Russia. State institutions are in a situation of exercising different attributions from their daily ones, and one of the challenges that both citizens and those working in the system face is to understand who has what to do in these unusual conditions. Those who have a background in the sociology or political science know very well that the institutions and the state in general, especially when it comes to international conflicts, must act in several directions. While non-governmental organizations focus directly on the problem, the state has several directions of action. International relations, the protection of its own citizens, the provision of humanitarian aid, economic, military issues. Until 2014, Ukraine was viewed by Romanian state as a pawn of the Russian Federation in Eastern Europe, and especially in the Republic of Moldova. Romania's relations with the Ukraine were rather cold due to historical reasons. Romania's territorial losses following the Soviet ultimatum in 1940, but also for reasons that arose after the fall of communism. Three major issues affected the bilateral relationship: the rights of the Romanian community in Ukraine, which is more than 1 million citizens, the delimitation of the continental shelf of Serpent Island. It's a very strategical island in the Black Sea, and the construction of the Bystroe Canal in Danube Delta. After 1989, the revolution and the Ceausescu regime is finished, Romania's relationship with the state of the former communist space was marked either by Russophobia, or by the fear of the Romanian political leaders who seized power after December '89 of being associated with Russia. With the exception of the Republic of Moldova, whose independence Romania recognized first, Romanian interest in the former Soviet republics was subsumed under the objectives of joining NATO and the European Union. Regardless of their political affiliation, governments in Romania understood they could not achieve these goals without good relations with neighboring states, including Ukraine. However, relations with Ukraine got off to a bad start. In 1991, when Soviet Ukraine announced a referendum on independence, the Romanian government and parliament issued similar statements denying Kiev the right to consult the population of territories that had belonged to Romania. In short, the collective memory, the public memory about Ukraine was at the time of the start of the war in 2022 quite complicated, I could say. Towards Russia, Romania manifested a strong, very strong idiosyncrasy due to historical relations, Russia's imperial desire to impose itself, the experience of the Second World War in which also Russia fight against fascists is left, Romania with deep wounds. I remember on the morning of the war, the shock was very great because the fear of Russia is still very great in Romania. Having a border with Russia is one of the Romanians' biggest historical and political nightmares. So, looking at these pictures, reflecting on these collective wounds and fears, we must also understand the reaction of government institutions towards refugees. In the first weeks, I can say in the first months, civil society in Romania was organized in an exemplary manner. The borders were opened after the first hour when the war starting. People gathered at the border waiting for the refugees, which was only women and children, waiting for the refugees with hot tea, food, offering their personal cars to transport them, medicine, even offering their own homes for hosting. The reaction of the institution was one that was delayed and also was harshly criticized by civil society. Tens of thousands of women and children crossed the border daily, entering Romania through all border points. But the first tents for refugees were installed by Romanian government after 14 days near to the border. So late. I would like to draw your attention to one more very important thing. You know, we are in Eastern Europe, and the accuracy of data collection is always a problem. We always find an excuse for not collecting data, and in the absence of quantitative and qualitative data, public policies are missing, and there is a lack of prompt government response. But data collection in the case of Ukrainian refugees is even more complicated, and I will explain why. At least 3 types of data must be looked carefully. Ukrainians in general entered in Romania, but they are divided as follows. Refugees who have dual citizenship, Romanian and Ukrainian, as a form of historical reparations towards the Romanians who lived in the Romanian territories that were ceded to Ukraine after 40, Romania granted Romanian citizenship to several thousand Ukrainian relatives up to the 3rd degree. We do not have public data about these refugees, who in fact are Romanian citizens, refugees in their own country. The second category is that of Ukrainian citizens who obtain a form of protection from the Romanian state. They address it to the institution, ask for help, and for them we have data on different categories. And the third category is of Ukrainian citizens who took refuge in Romania, settled in the towns near to the border, but hoping that the war will end quickly, and they didn't ask for government support. So apart from the border point where they presented their passport, they are no longer registered in any institution in Romania.
Ms. Fatma, I'm sorry.
Yes.
If you can conclude maybe like in 1 minute.
Okay, I have some data, but I will not give you these numbers. It's not so important. I just want to, of course, there are many details to discuss about the complicated relationship of the Romanian state with Ukraine, about the reluctance on the lack of a firmer reaction on the ground, because of official statements have always been very firm in support of Ukraine. In conclusion, my message is, please, because of the new political statements that we hear every day, please stop giving us lessons on how to make peace with the aggressors, how to make peace with a state that has a huge desire for expansion. Do not teach us how to forgive Russian rapists. Probably some politicians today want us to close our eyes and to be blind. Just as the state, Romanian state, a few weeks ago, closed its eyes to the abuses of the state brothers. We know very well from the stories of our grandmothers what the rapes of Russian soldiers mean, even in the peacetime, when the Russian army liberated the countries from fascists. So please listen to the drama of Ukrainian women, the aunts in their souls that will probably never be closed. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Yilmaz, for giving a voice to the Ukrainian women and girls and children. We can only try to understand the difficulties and the challenges that they face. And in times of wars and conflicts, when a war happens, people, they run for their lives and leave everything behind. And sometimes families are separated, as we watched from the video, right? So that's a very difficult, situation. And since as a human rights advocate, I also help with refugees, and it's really, heartbreaking to see refugee families separated from mothers and fathers and sometimes children, and sometimes people, they lose their lives. And thank you so much for covering the political complexities in the region, how states are approaching the situation to open the borders or close the borders, or when they come, integration of these policies. And we will come back to this. I know you have a lot to tell. Now I would like to continue with our second speaker, Ms. Vonya Womack. She's an advocate, consultant, educator specializing in human rights, peace building, and movement strategy. She's an executive director of Refugees Unknown, Stories Untold, where she provides guidance to organizations and activists, including the JWF. She's our advisor board member. With over 20 years of experience in business and higher education, Womack teaches political science at Villanova University and contributes to Cedar Crest College's MBA program. Holding a master's in conflict resolution, she focuses on leadership in conflict zones, forced migration, and women's rights. As an active speaker and researcher, Womack shapes global discussions on social justice, refugee rights, and advocacy for marginalized communities. You have the floor.
Thank you to JWF, thank you to ANAIS, and to you, Carmen, and everyone else that was involved in this. So I want you to do something for me a second. I want you to picture this. A woman who flees the bombs of Ukraine. This way, this way, okay. All right, I'll try that. So picture for me. A woman flees the bombs of Ukraine, clutching her children. She's carrying with her the life-changing trauma of war. Or picture a Turkish woman, mother, escaping political persecution, having to hide and escape with her children in a small boat across the Aegean Sea. Now, envision their arrival in a foreign land, only to encounter a new threat: isolation, stigma, or abuse, stoked by the words of powerful leaders. So this is the reality, as we know, for millions of women today. So the scale is really staggering. According to UNHCR, at the end of 2023, there were over 117.3 million people forcibly displaced worldwide. And women and girls disproportionately face gender-based violence at those every turns that they make. So, as you heard, my name is Vonya Womack, and today I'm honored to explore transformative approaches to support migrant and refugee women, focusing on Ukrainian and Turkish communities. So I'll draw comparisons with Europe's challenges, delve into how political discourse, especially from movements like MAGA or FAIR and their European counterparts, how that shapes the lives and reflect on our role as professionals in addressing this crisis. So this is more than survival, right? It's about empowerment, best practices in rewriting a narrative of resilience. So let's start in the United States, where NGOs have developed innovative programs that seek to provide support services for women and children refugees. First, consider Ukrainian women. Since Russia's 2022 invasion, nearly 13 million Ukrainians, predominantly women and children, have been displaced, with many resettling in the U.S. under humanitarian parole. They carry deep scars: war-related sexual violence, forced displacement, and economic instability. Organizations like the UN Women's Partner with governments, UN agencies, civil society organizations, and other institutions work to find ways to prevent violence against women and girls. Other organizations like CARE International, they have risen to the challenge. In 2023, US-based women's groups provided mental support to over 5,000 Ukrainian women, offering counseling, trauma-informed care, and job training to help rebuild lives that have been shattered by this conflict. In Chicago, the Sphere Network, which is originally from Kharkiv, has taken root, and this is where Ukrainian women gather to share language, to share stories, and to share strength. One mother of two told me how these types of meetings restored her sense of belonging after months of isolation that she went to, helping her find work as a translator. Now, turn to Turkish refugee women, many of whom are intellectuals. Right? They're teachers, counselors, judges, lawyers, civil servants, and business professionals, forced to flee the Erdogan regime's crackdown. After the 2016 failed coup attempt, Turkey labeled what's called the Gulen movement a terrorist organization, targeting anyone even loosely associated with it, often without any kind of evidence. Take the story here of Aylan and Ezra, two young Turkish women, a teacher and a school counselor, who worked at a Gulen-affiliated school in Ankara. Despite no links to terrorism, they were branded enemies of the state, Fearing arrest, they fled in 2018, crossing the Evros River into Greece on a flimsy raft with their young children. Along the way, they faced gender-based violence, harassment by smugglers, assault at border crossings, exploitation in transit camps. And once they arrived in the U.S. where they had family support, they sought asylum. Organizations like the IRC, the International Rescue Committee, and an organization called Set Them Free became their lifeline. Just through the program Girls Shine, the IRC supported over 1,000 Turkish and Middle Eastern women in the states like New Jersey and New York. Set Them Free organization helped Turkish refugees network for legal aid, gender-based violence counseling, and life skills workshops. Aylan shared how Set Them Free's English classes helped her navigate visa issues, report past abuses, and break through cultural stigma. Esra found solace in counseling sessions, rebuilding her confidence to support other Turkish refugees that were forced to flee. So these U.S. models are community-driven, right? They're trauma-sensitive and culturally responsive. They offer hope. Yet challenges persist, we know that. Underfunding limits scale, and not all women will actually access these lifelines. But still, they're a foundation that we can build upon. So now let's turn to Europe, okay, where the landscape shifts dramatically. Over 3.7 million Ukrainian refugees have sought refuge there since 2022, but support systems falter. A 2024 study by World Vision and NGO Girls revealed that 36% of displaced Ukrainian women lack awareness of gender-based violence prevention resources. In Poland, shelters are overcrowded and funding shortages leave gaps in care. Women wait for weeks for support, increasing their vulnerability. Compare this to the US, where grassroots networks like Sphere adapt quickly to peer-led initiatives. Now, I want to be fair in that. Are there programs like that in Europe? Yes, there are, right? So, Europe's struggles tend to lie more in execution, strict border policies, fragmented services, heightened risks. We have those the same here in the US too. The UN Women's 2022 Rapid Gender Analysis noted increased trafficking vulnerabilities along routes like the Balkans. For Turkish refugee women, the picture is equally troubling. One woman talked about how difficult it was to take the journey with her 4-year-old special needs son, escaping Turkey and eventually getting to Europe. It became evident that she had faced gender-based violence back in Turkey, but she faced further gender-based violence in Europe. Harassment in Greek camps, exploitation by employers, and assault in public places, often fueled by local resentment. So this is compounded by women being harassed, right, in the workplace and feeling afraid to speak up, not report it, or not seek help. A 2023 Taylor and Francis study on Syrian refugees in Turkey and Germany found that hostile political rhetoric reduces access to services, a trend that is applicable to Turkish women too. Europe legal frameworks like the Istanbul Convention, the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, and the 1993 UN Declaration on the Elimination of Violence Against Women, those promise protection. But implementation lags, as we heard, right? Leaving women exposed to violence in transit or in their host communities. So the contrast is clear, and both have immense hurdles to overcome, right? The US, as I said, leans on flexibility, community-led solutions. Europe grapples with systematic overload, bureaucratic delays, we do too. Something the US is also likely to experience even more based on cuts to funding for social programs recently. So, but the thread that's really weaving through all of these challenges is political discourse, right? The words of leaders and movements that can heal or that can harm. So research supports this. A study found that hostile rhetoric, labeling refugees as burdens or threats, isolates them, cutting off support and raising gender-based violence risks. Take Ukrainian refugees. In the US, far-right voices, influenced by movements, like the MAGA movement. They have demonized them, echoing leaders in Hungary and Poland. A 2024 Relief Web report links this to a 51% spike in domestic violence in Ukraine since 2022. War trauma amplified by rejection abroad. So a real-life example brings this home, and I want to share it with you. And it was recently shared with me. A young Ukrainian woman in Europe declined a local man's advances, only to face a torrent of hate in a text message. F off. Go to your shitty Ukrainian country. You only stay here and use our money and eat. Just part of it. She countered with dignity, saying, I work, pay taxes. You know, I'm not looking for any kind of handouts. Yet his words reflect a growing trend that we have seen regarding hatred. So Turkish women face similar verbal abuse, compounded by their journeys. A woman who sought asylum in Germany encountered hostility shaped by political narratives. Locals influenced by anti-refugee rhetoric from leaders in Turkey, the US, and Europe targeted them with threats and harassment, calling them terrorists and blaming them for economic woes. The woman endured the verbal abuse on public transport, fearing retaliation if she reported it. In the US, the far-right movements have fueled this with anti-immigration rhetoric and policies like the Remain in Mexico program, which per the 2022 Women's Refugee Commission has left refugee women vulnerable to sexual violence at borders. The Federation for American Immigration Reform, which is listed, is called FAIR, adds to this, advocating for ending asylum and portraying refugees as threats to jobs and security, despite its founding ties to white supremacist groups. So across the Atlantic, European movements mirror this. Hungary's Fidesz party, right-wing nationalist party known for authoritarian leading governance, and anti-immigrant policies, in a key figure in the Patriots for Europe coalition. And that pushes the MEGA, or Make Europe Great Again, agenda, mirroring what we have happening here in the US with MAGA. Germany's Alternative for Deutschland calls for remigration, tying refugees to crime, despite evidence in the contrary. France and Austria, and I won't even continue to mention those. Yet my focus, I just want to make clear, today was on the most vulnerable, the women and the children who are fleeing persecution, they're fleeing violence, and they face heightened risks of gender-based violence due to those very policies and rhetoric. So my recommendations here were, let's change the narrative, right? Many Turkish refugees like Aylan and Ezra that I talked about, intellectuals, they've got skills that could enrich host communities. Imagine if we, those of us that work within this realm, highlighted their strengths. Ezra could counsel refugee youth, for example. So I think that I'll leave you with this. One of the things that we say in Philadelphia, right, which is where I'm from, is we say, yo, stop John and handle it. And what that means is, it's enough talking, we need to start doing more. But if we come together collectively, I think that's what we need, right? We've got a lot of different programs that are going on everywhere else. Imagine if we had a steady kind of stream of messaging that went out. So let's change the narrative. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vonya, for this comparative analysis of the refugees from a Turkish and Ukrainian perspectives, and also sharing some perspective from the USA as well. As you mentioned, stories of refugees are unknown and untold, and the NGOs play an important role to give a voice to these refugees, especially women and children. And I agree with you that when refugees, they come to a new, host country, they come with their culture, language, music, food. So once, these, cultural heritage is appreciated by the host community, then their integration into the community is getting much easier and much better. And also, I agree with you that refugees are scared of reporting violence or sexual harassment or any hate crimes. So that's why, again, NGOs could help refugees to report this. And as Ms. Yilmaz mentioned, we don't have enough data on these that goes into reporting. So thank you so much. And lastly, I think, yes, I agree with you, and that it is also mentioned at the United Nations that we have to change the narrative that refugees are not a burden, but they could contribute to a sustainable development in the countries. Now I would like to move on to our next speaker. Our next speaker is Judge Carolyn Nichols. She was elected to a 10-year term in Pennsylvania Superior Court in 2017. She previously served as an elected Philadelphia Common Pleas Court judge and conducted felony jury trials in criminal court with equal justice for the accused and the crime victims. She supports positive re-entry to prevent recidivism and participated in the Turn a New Corner initiative to help facilitate the employment of returning citizens. Judge Nichols received a bachelor's degree from Temple University, graduated from Temple University Law School with the Juris Doctor degree, and received her master's in law degree in trial advocacy from Temple University Law School. Additionally, Judge Nichols obtained her MBA from Eastern University. You have the floor, Judge.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. I am a judge in Pennsylvania, so I have no jurisdiction here in New York, and I'm so happy to be here anyway. I want to speak very briefly, so I don't get gonged out, about justice and protection for immigrant children, and my perspective as a state judge on particularly special immigrant juvenile status cases. Now, what the SIJ status is, it's an immigration classification of the federal law of the Immigration and Nationality Act, and generally this SIJ classification allows immigrant children to seek lawful residency in the United States to remain where their needs are best met to avoid deportation back to where they were abused or maltreated or abandoned in their home country. So in other words, they're in the United States now, but the abuse occurred in their home country, and this classification allows the immigrant child, if they meet certain criteria, of course, they'd be under 21 years of age, unmarried at the time of the filing and adjudication, physically present in the United States. And this process is unique because it's a dual state and federal process. So as a state court, the immigrant minor has to be declared dependent by a juvenile court in the United States, which could be a court here in New York, which could be in Pennsylvania or any of the 50 states. And what that means is that juvenile state court, not federal court, but state court, has determined that reunification with one or both of the immigrant's parents is not viable because of the abuse, the abandonment, and the maltreatment. The federal process requires the Secretary of Homeland Security to consent to the grant of immigrant juvenile status through a very extensive, as you can imagine, process and application and review process through the United States Citizen and Immigration Services, USCIS, which is a federal agency of Homeland Security. So the USCIS application is extensive, and the state court, after making its order that it's in the best interest of the immigrant minor to remain in the United States, not to be returned to their home country because of abuse, neglect, and abandonment, that predicate judicial order has to be part of the package, if you will, for the USCIS to make its determination. So without going through all the legalese, so everybody's eyes are glazed over, I think the best way to kind of bring this to life is to bring a real case study. 2024, now, as everyone's mentioned, the laws are changing as we speak. So I have to make a disclaimer. This is how the law was in 2024. We don't know what may be coming, but there's a case, Velasquez v. Miranda, which sort of illustrates how this process works. It really makes me proud to be an American state judge, to be able to protect these children and to enable them to thrive here in the United States to escape nightmare conditions. In the Velasquez case, the mother, Velasquez, came to the United States with children, including the child that's the subject of this case, and they resided, they came in 2018. The case went up to our Supreme Court, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, not SCOTUS, but the Pennsylvania Supreme Court in 2024. So they had been in Pennsylvania for quite a while. Their home country was in Guatemala. The father remained in Guatemala, and in fact, as the case moved to the state juvenile court, signed paperwork, didn't oppose any of the findings of the state court, but acknowledged that he did receive the custody paperwork. The mother was seeking in Pennsylvania state court sole custody of the children, and also wanted to get the predicate SIJ order so that she could complete the process for the child in the immigration part of the proceeding. Some of the testimony should give you a sense of what the abuse was. She was struck, beaten in front of her children, choked. The father worked with selling construction materials, and he wouldn't properly support the children financially. She was attacked with various materials. Eventually, she did go to court in Guatemala to receive relief. And then he became more violent, spitting on her, physically attacking her. She moved to her mother's house. He came there, threw a pot of hot water on her. She was punched. She testified that during her pregnancy, one of the children, she was attacked. The child was born with a dislocated hip. So we can see that the abuse was extensive. All of this testimony came into the state juvenile court. She was harassed. No matter where she tried to get away, she had to leave her parents' home, and the father's side of the family, had no sympathy for it at all. In fact, sort of condoned what was going on. So the mother concluded that it was harmful for her to remain in Guatemala under these circumstances, with physical, emotional, verbal abuse, so that she was able to immigrate to Pennsylvania, but she wanted to go through the custody process. Now, judges aren't perfect, and because of the intertwining of federal and state law, unfortunately, our trial court kind of got a little mixed up here and did grant the order for sole custody, but would not grant the order for the SIJ part of it. So that meant that the mother did not have the predicate SIJ order that she needed to now go to Homeland Security, to the immigration authorities to complete the process. So then she appealed up the line to our court. We blew it too. We didn't get it right. So we affirmed the trial court. So then the case went to our Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court did its analysis to kind of straighten up, clean up the mess, I guess you could say, to get it right, and determine that, yes, the trial court got it, and our court got it partially right by agreeing to grant sole custody of the immigrant child because of the severity of the physical abuse, that the educational opportunities were better here in Pennsylvania. The children were thriving, the child was thriving, doing well in Pennsylvania, so that part of it was right. But this trial court determined, well, we're not a federal tribunal, we don't have the authority to grant an order for this SIJ eligibility because we're not Homeland Security. But Supreme Court said, well, yes and no. We know you're not a federal agency, but the law requires, this SIJ law, which is kind of a unique law, a hybrid of federal and state tribunals and proceedings, does grant the state juvenile court the power and the jurisdiction to issue a predicate SIJ order that the immigrant child is eligible based on the determination that it's the best interest of the child to remain here, and the safety concerns. The court was particularly moved by the comprehensive review of the record and the extensive physical, emotional abuse and the non-financial support, and said, well, that would be enough for the state court to grant the predicate SIJ order that the parent would take into the USCIS to complete the immigration process. Because without that order, you can't complete the process. So they have to go back to the home country of Guatemala. So we hope it was a happy conclusion. The Supreme Court reversed our court and the trial court, and it went back to the state court for the state court to issue our Supreme Court, Pennsylvania Supreme Court, specifically required that the trial court issue that predicate SIJ order to enable the immigrant child to get this status, so that the child could remain in the United States and not be deported. We're hopeful that that is what took place, and that's how it works. So this process, this SIJ process, makes me proud to be a judge in this country, that we are doing what we can in spite of all the negativity and just flat out craziness going on, that we're able to stand up for justice and protect an innocent child from abuse, neglect, and abandonment, and enable this child to create a new life here in Pennsylvania. And as you mentioned, Carmen, that there are many challenges in this process, particularly language barriers in the state court. So there has to, that trial judge is responsible to make sure that the appropriate language interpreters are available, so that the child can understand, the parent can understand, and everybody can understand what's going on, so that the process can move forward. Because without the mother being able to testify as to these conditions, she's testifying in her language, then the process couldn't move forward. So it's important that we have these resources at the state level to enable immigrants, regardless of what language. And believe it or not, Pennsylvania, I think there are 160 languages spoken, or 180 languages in Pennsylvania, something like that. So that's a whole lot of diversity out there. So we, as professionals, legal professionals and judicial professionals, a great part of our practice is to make sure that we have the resources to ensure that these processes can move forward, and that the participants have whatever they need to seek justice in this country. So, yeah, we've heard a lot of bad news, but to me, this is the good news of how our court system can rise to, and she said beautifully, rise to the level of humanity, to show our humanity as a system for the better. So, thank you.
Thank you so much, Judge Nichols, for sharing an overview of the immigration and refugee situation in the U.S. And as many of us as immigrants in the U.S., I'm an immigrant, right? I have been naturalized about 26 years ago. I'm an American now, but we went through the USCIS, right?
You're very familiar.
Center for Immigration and Refugees. I was lucky that I spoke English at the time, but I have helped so many refugees who are applying for asylum in the U.S., and some of them, they don't speak the language, and it makes it really difficult for judges and everybody to get the process through. And as you mentioned, in the U.S., not only in Ukraine and Romania, in the U.S. as well, refugees are going through difficult times, and when they come to the new society, they don't live in like safe neighborhoods, right? They live in like unsafe neighborhoods, and they face so much hatred, like verbal or physical attacks. And again, it's on the NGOs, but at the same time, government agencies to provide legal protection for them. And we do our best, but of course, sometimes things happen, and we have to do our best. So thank you so much. Now, I would like to move to our next, last but not least speaker. She is an amazing woman, Miss Bianca Brat. She is a recognized Romanian personality. She's an actress, presenter, trainer, founder of the E.M.M.A organization established in 2007, is the first of its kind in Romania to support parents who have lost a child. She is an expert at the ANAIS Association, focusing on empowering women survivors of gender-based violence and aiding the reintegration of refugee women through community support and psychological services. Bianca, she is also the mother of Luca and her angel child, E.M.M.A, whose memory inspired the creation of the E.M.M.A NGO. She is an honorary member of the International Women's Association. You have the floor.
Thank you very much. I wasn't expected to hear all that. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Bună ziua, we say in Romanian. Everything I heard here touched me, and I'm impressed. And actually, it's nice to hear. I heard things that somehow build it, or it came in to what I'm going to say. I found in each speech something that I thought about. What am I going to talk about today? And leave the actress behind has nothing to do. We are all actors on life stage, so it has nothing to do with it. But as a personal development coach and a workshop facilitator, I had the privilege to work with many women who endured unimaginable loss and suffer. And yes, it's a privilege because you can learn so much just by talking and working with them. My message today is rooted through my direct experience in working with the refugees. They are coming to ANAIS Association, and it's very emotional to work with them. It's not about survival, not only survival, but also thriving. And this is what I loved about ANAIS, and I love about ANAIS, that they are not working only by providing help, legal aid, and all the material things, but they take care of their souls. And this is very, very, very important. More important than actually we believe. But before I continue, because as I said, I'm organizing workshops. One of them is about imagining things, because we know imagination is stronger than knowledge. Who said that? Einstein? Einstein? Because knowledge is limited, but imagination goes around the world, and we are all one. So through imagination, we can maybe understand better the others. As Vonya said, let's make an exercise. Don't worry, I'm not going to make you do jumping or so. It's about imagination. Imagine this. A woman, once a teacher maybe, a mother, a wife, wakes up one morning to the sound of bombs. Just imagine. In an instant, just like that. Her life, and not only hers, it's turned around. Her home, her dreams, her sense of safety is torn apart. Her home is not longer a place of warmth, but a battleground. She grabs her child, leaves her husband and her family behind, and she becomes a refugee. And she arrives in a country, unknown country. She doesn't know anyone. She doesn't know language. She's exhausted, traumatized, and scared. Scared for her, for her children, for the family left home. Yes, she may find shelter, hopefully. Yes, she may receive legal protection. But what about the scars on her soul? Who is going to be there to wipe her tears? Who is going to be there to hold her hand in the silence of her pain? Who will help her find her way back to herself? This woman is not just one story. She's millions. Since the war began, millions of Ukrainian women and children have fled their home, seeking safety. Many of them survivors, not just of war, but also of gender-based violence, sexual violence, exploitation, and unimaginable trauma. Governments and organizations are working tirelessly to provide legal assistance, asylum, and basic resources. But survival is not just about policies and paperwork. Healing, real healing, deep healing, requires something deeper. It requires empathy. I was trying to find a way to express what I feel about empathy, what is empathy about, and how it works actually. And I came to this analogy that the justice, the legal protection, the advocacy, everything that is practical is like the medicine, yeah? But when you take medicine, if it doesn't have a carrier that goes straight in the bloodstream, it is not so efficient. So that carrier is the one who makes the treatment efficient. It's the same with empathy. The help we give, housing, medicine, toys for kids, clothing, food, they are wonderful, they are great, they are welcome, they are perfect. But it's the empathy that help really and reach the ones who are hurting. Without empathy, any support, although it's very good and it's very important, without empathy, might seem cold and sometimes can make people feel bad. Because sometimes people think about survivors as just as victims, and they pity them. And the survivors don't need pity. They need empathy. They need support, emotional support, humanity. This is what gives power, and this is what empowers them. More than pity, what they need is to be heard, to be seen, and to be understood without being judged. I've been through this, and I know I'm not talking only about through experience by working with the refugees and other women, domestic violence survivors. I've been myself through all kind of a lot of hardships, and I know what I'm telling. Empathy is the one who makes you keep going. Another important help is counseling and therapy should be as accessible as food and housing. Not just come here, keep some packages, go home, eat, feel well, we can give you advices. It's that hug. Yeah, it's the warmth. It's what gives you more hope and strength. Community gatherings, storytelling, art therapy, and mindfulness programs can help, women reconnect with their lost senses of self. And this is what ANAIS is doing. ANAIS is one of the lifeliners. And as you saw at the beginning, I didn't know Carmen was going to present that short movie. She said exactly the same. As I didn't know about this, she said, we fled one day, I took my children, I was alone, I left my husband, I left my parents, I came in a country where I didn't know anybody, and I found ANAIS, and ANAIS helped me. And how? Not only by giving support. Oh my gosh, it's so fast. Okay. It's a lot to say. It's just, I want to thank to JW Foundation and ADVU and ANAIS for the chance to be here and to listen to people who make a change in the world, or at least they are trying and they do everything they want. We need to focus to do good, but with kindness and with empathy. And I won't let you go without an exercise. Well, actually, it's just one of the tools I give to people and friends when they meet. For example, when they have kind of like a panic attack, they feel like it's coming, something, very nervous, very, yeah, and the heart is start beating. It's a very simple exercise. You can do it anywhere, anytime, no matter if you are at the supermarket, in the car, visiting, or here. You just have to imagine a square. Yeah, you see with the four corners, but I meant the not angles. Whatever, lines. Okay. And it's like this. And we're going to do it together. I'm just explaining you first how to do it. So keep in mind, it's very simple and you can use it anytime. You breathe in, you count 4 until you go up one side, hold the breath for 4, top, breathe out for 4, go down, hold the breath 4. So you keep going up, breathe in, hold, breathe out, hold. It's very, very, very simple. In the meantime, you can use your imagination to think, I breathe in light, everything is safe, I take out all the fear, I'm fine. Or anything you want, maybe it can be a prayer or whatever. So, if you want, you don't have to, but if you would like, let's try together. Okay? Just relax, relax, relax. Stay comfortable in your chair. Okay. And now, I see you. Breathe in for 4. And 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathe out. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4. And once again, breathe in. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4. And breathe out. 1, 2, 3, 4. And hold. 1, 2, 3, 4. I can't go any longer. It's you can do it like 2 or 3 minutes. You can feel your heart starts to slow down. Now maybe it's up because you want to go up. And another one from many, many things I could tell you, maybe another time, maybe next year, maybe, in a workshop. Here, on the left, on the right side of the throat, neck, just you can put your fingers like this or like this, and go down, down from up and down. Massage this part because here you can, here is the nervous back vagus nerve, sorry, vagus nerve, which is not vagus at all, actually. Yes, when you work with it, the whole body works and it's great. Just trust me. Read about it. Anyway, so you can sit here and do this stuff. Yeah. This heart, just this, and I'm done. I didn't put this set just by chance. It's also to send this message about love and empathy. And thank you very much. And be loved and be kind.
Thank you so much, Ms. Bianca. So our panel is complete because when we think about a human being, we are mind, body, and soul. So we address the difficulties that refugees are facing in terms of like intellectual understanding and also physical, the trauma that they're going through. But you also touched our hearts and our souls. Thank you so much. We become very emotional, at least I was. Yes, and I completely agree with you. The refugee isn't about policies, but it's about touching the hearts and the souls of the refugees. And I agree with you. I mean, everybody has scars, but refugees, especially women and children, they have so much scars, tears, and who's gonna really, address to those? And those scars will stay with them. And again, I agree with you that we have to go beyond policies, and we have to have empathy and humanity. That should come first. So I want to thank all the panelists. They're wonderful. We can give a round of applause to them. In terms of time, I can get maybe a couple of questions from the audience. If you can raise your hand if you have a question, so I can see how many questions we have. Do we have any questions? I mean, I have my questions, but I would like to give the opportunity to you if you have any questions. All right. Then let me just, ask my questions, and our panelists could respond to them, with their concluding remarks. Okay, so I'll give you the mic. So basically, we talked about the separation of families, right? So when they live for their lives, so they leave everything behind, all their memories, their houses, their families. So that's a very difficult situation. So I would really appreciate if you have any anecdote on that. And also how the media is covering the refugee issue. I think we did not really talk about it, but unfortunately when a new crisis happens, then unfortunately media does not really talk about it. And how can we try to keep the Ukrainian refugees on the headlines so it's not forgotten. And then the other one is, the judge, Your Honor, you talked about the legal protection for refugees. And so I would like to give the mic for your final remarks. So I'll go with you first.
With which one question is for me?
I mean, you can mention.
Yes, I want to talk about the journalism and narrative, and I think in Romania, the journalists cover the subject. It's okay. Cover the subjects, I think I'm done. But in the other way was this negative wave, yes. Some part of Romania, like you said, they are against Ukrainian because of historical, regional, and a lot of other issues. So this is some part of press. They are thinking good and humanitarian aid and everything, but a part of them are like, what do you want to give them? What Romania have to take money from our budget to give them? Because in Romania also we have poor person, but this is wrong, because in Romania we have also rights and they have to work, we have the tools not to be poor, maybe. But for refugees, it's very difficult to start zero, like I said, with no knowledge of language, no knowledge of nothing. So this is very hard to say that we have our poor, we don't want another. It's not like there are similar situations. And this is like a change in the mentality. And the Romanian becomes, oh, why? Maybe it's right, So this is about manipulation, and it is about misunderstood the subjects, yes. But it's good that we are talking about this, yes, because perspective not to talk about the free press, it's not good. So this is my intervention for the journalism. It's good, but it can be better. Yeah.
As a final remarks, I just want to say that I don't know maybe what to do in this situation, very complicated political, international relationship. It's really very, very difficult. And I think at the individual level, live your life and let others live with respect and dignity. This is the most important thing, I think.
The final remarks very quickly.
All right, so I think for my final remarks, what I would say is that I kind of have this vision that if we could get some common themes around things, I mean, we have women here right now, this week, next week, and maybe the following week, from all over the world. And if we can change the narrative of what it is that we can expose in regards to refugee women and children, I think that those kinds of messages, especially when it comes to social media, help to counter the narratives that are coming out of Washington right now, that are coming out of leaders in Europe right now. And that rhetoric matters. Like, it matters what they say, because we see that that's then implemented in society, right? So, you know, that's what I would say, is I would encourage everybody to try to, you know, besides doing what you're doing, try and find other people that are doing what you're doing, right? And then lift them up, talk about what they're doing. I think if we do that more, then we've got a shot at being able to turn that narrative around.
Well, for my final remarks, I would just say that I'm hopeful that in spite of all the political rhetoric and social media, that in the courts we continue to implement humanitarian protection for immigrants, migrants, refugees, particularly children, as you heard in the case that I shared with you, so that they can live their best lives. Because as judges and courts, it's our responsibility to shut off the noise and not to deal with the insanity, but to apply the rule of law impartially, transparently, and with a sense of honor and integrity. There's no other way to put it. Good old-fashioned honor and integrity in our process. So no matter what is being said, no matter what's going on, no matter who's in and who's out, politically, that as the courts, we stand as a separate body, a separate branch of government, which we are, to use our independent judgment to continue to implement the humanitarian protection that people need to live. And not just imagine, hopefully, but to really be able to live in reality their best lives.
Going back to the theme, gender-based violence, I thought about a quote that I like very much, which goes very well for the refugees and even for the ones who maybe don't like women so much. They tried to bury us, but they didn't know we are seeds. And this is what we have to do, like the seeds, to grow and to thrive and to flower. Flourish, or how to say? Yeah. Flourish, yes. So I really appreciate, and I hope that we will break the cycle of violence through education, community engagement, systemic change, and of course, through empathy. Thank you.